Hello YouTube worlds, how you doing? I did not mean to get this color blonde. This is like what they call platinum blonde. I don't know when I'm gonna wear this. This is just too bright, and this, I know this look white in the camera, but this is platinum blonde, y'all. Yeah, so I'm like, I gotta stop wearing wigs. I have so many wigs that I don't even wear because, you know, it's just not me. Like I wear wigs when I go out, and I'm older now, so I don't really go out as much, only if I'm going like out on a date or something. And I haven't gone out on a date since September. I met a guy in a club and he turned out to be a weirdo. Let me tell y'all about that. Yes, this is story time. Story time. I'm gonna be talking about a few things with this story time, but I'm like, about my ex that I told y'all about. I told y'all in bits and pieces, but I said I need to get it off my chest today because I think about him like all the time, and every time I think about him I get angry. I actually sent my story to another subscriber, but she's, I guess, hella busy, and I sent it to her in November and she haven't read it. She actually was reading subscriber diaries from like the summertime, so I don't feel bad because I'm not the only one that sends her stuff and she not reading it. She probably, if she reads mine, she probably not gonna read it till next year in the spring or something. I wanted to send it to Charisma. I don't know if y'all know Charisma, but I don't know her email, and I was typing in the comments like, what's your email, whatever, because I noticed she just talk about herself, like she don't talk about nobody else. And that's another thing, y'all. If y'all want me to do a story time on y'all, if y'all want me to do subscriber diaries, comment below and let me know. And I'm not gonna put my email up until I get feedback from my viewers. If you guys want to send your stories, I'll be more than happy to read them. We could do a girl chat. I could do advice. I do advice all day, and we can do this. We can make this poppin'. Like, I'm midway to 1,000 subscribers. Y'all need to give me some feedback, all right? Feedback. I need some comments. I need y'all to tell me what y'all want. What do y'all want more on this channel? I know I talk about everything from, I talk about niggas, I talk about friends, I talk about education. I told y'all about Malcolm X opera. I did a video on Manifest Destiny. Like, I do it all. So I'm very well-rounded. I'm a very well-rounded person. Yeah, so whatever y'all want to talk about, comment below. Let me know what y'all want to talk about. If y'all want me to do subscriber diaries, I will be more than happy to do that. But y'all gotta let me know. Y'all gotta let me know, and I'll do it. So into the story time about this guy that I met in the club. So first of all, I am 34 years old, and I have never, I'm gonna tell you, I've never talked to any guy from the club. There's a lot of guys that come up to me and I say no. Reason being is because men are very judgmental, and most men my age and even older will say is nothing but hoes in the club. They are not looking for a wife in the club, generally, right? Now, I've heard people, like my grandparents, they met in the club, right? My grandmother approached my grandfather and they hit it off, had 4 children, 4 boys, and one of those boys is my father. So they had 4 boys, and it was a very tumultuous relationship. It was not good at all. My grandfather was atheist, even though his side of the family, there are ministers and stuff like that. But my grandfather, as I was told, he was atheist, and my grandmother was Baptist. So that right there, it was bound for failure or whatever. And yeah, so I had planned on, I've been real lazy with my second book. Like I wanted to get it published by next year. But along with my second book with thrillers and short stories, I actually wanted to do a series about my father's family, because everything he been through and with his brothers, and he went through racism and white people attacking him. I think that would make like a really good series, and I plan on contacting Netflix and, you know, bigger and better things. I still got dreams even at 34. I completed college. I graduated last year in May, but I still got other things that I want to do. So yes. So yes, typically men, when they meet a woman in a club, they're not looking for anything serious. And I know from my friends' experiences as well that like one former friend, the one I told y'all, she actually met a guy in the club. We actually were all in the club together. I didn't see him approach her, but he did, and that's where they met. And he was an older guy too. Like, we were all in our early 20s, and he was like 31. He wasn't that older, but he was a little older. So she's thinking, oh, okay, he's 31 at the time. You know, she was like, she's a year older than me, so she was like early 20s, 22 or something like that. And or 22 or 23, like really early 20s, and he was 31. So she's thinking, oh, okay, he's older, more mature. He was not. He just wanted a good time. He didn't want no relationship. He actually told her that in the beginning, and I was like, well, why is he saying that so early? Like, at least get to know a person before you know, write them out. But he told her from the beginning. This thing is shedding. Hold on. Yeah, so he tells her off the bat, like, he didn't want no relationship. And it was crazy because they spent a lot of time together. She met his family. She never introduced him to her family. She was smart with that. But like, she met his family. She was all in there. And not his family, I think just his cousin that he was staying with. But bottom line, like, they spent a lot of time together, and, you know, stuff like that. And a year and change passed. He still didn't want a commitment. And it was that particular friend, I think I told y'all about her. Nobody wanted her. So she just had an issue with dudes. But just in general, like, dudes you meet in the club, they don't want nothing serious, because they feel like if you in the club scene too much, like when we were in our 20s, we were in the club a lot. I remember in my 20s, I was in a club at least twice a month, which is not a lot, but I did my share of partying. So that's why for now, I don't really desire it as much. And plus, when it's cold outside, I was never the type to party anyway. Like, you would never see me, even in my 20s, you would never see me in the club in December, November, definitely not January or February. Like, those are cold months. So I was never the type to be in the club and it's 20 degrees outside. That was never me. I always dressed warm. You know, even my birthday, I wore a fur coat in March. Yes, I did. Like, you're not gonna catch me outside not being warm. Like, I'm cute, but I'm warm too. You know what I'm saying? You gonna see me with my hat on, a wig, something to cover my head, because my mother taught me that, always cover your head. But yeah, so I met this guy. This was Labor Day weekend, this Labor Day that just passed. So what made me approach him, mind you, I don't approach dudes. I think I told y'all in a previous video, if I approach you, you are that nigga. I could count on one hand how many men I've approached in my lifetime. I don't approach dudes, because most men, they approach me. You know, not to boast myself, but I don't have, even guys that I crush on, they'll approach me because they'll feel the energy. And yeah, so this guy, I approached him for the simple fact that most guys that be in a club, they be dusties. That's another reason why I don't talk to them, because they look like dusties. So when they try to talk to me, I'm like, no, because they look dusty to me. They just do. So this particular guy, he looked like, one thing about me, I know how to pick him as far as I know if a guy got money or not. I'm not a gold digger, but I'm not going to be with somebody who broke. I ain't broke. I got a job. So therefore, yeah. So with this guy, I gravitated to him because, you know, he dressed nice. He didn't dress like your typical young guy, whatever. Just well spoken. He was tall. He was light skinned, and just the way he carried himself, I could tell he was different from the rest. So we start dancing and stuff like that, and I said it to him. I said, "Do you want my number?" He said, "Yeah." So we exchanged numbers, and I wanted to kiss him right then and there, but I was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do that." So we get to talking, and he was a software engineer. So I'm like, okay, Crystal, you know, I knew it. Like, I knew he was a somebody. I knew whatever. So we go on our date, and he's like, oh, he lives close to like Union Square and stuff. So we decide to like go out there, and then we went out for ice cream, and we walked around. He was opening doors for me. Like, this guy was your typical perfect gentleman. I never had a guy that really held doors for me like that or whatever, unless if I was struggling with bags. But on a date, like, that really was nice. Like, I thought he was a nice guy. And, you know, we were talking or whatever. And then this is something that I did I've never done before. I ended up smacking him on the first date. And let me tell you why. So he starts to talking, and then all of a sudden we start talking about porn. I don't, like, he brought it up, and I'm like, okay. My experience just in general, anytime a guy starts talking about sex, you already know that's all he want. So once he started talking about sex, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is not going to turn out good, because that's what his mind is on. That's all he want. And that should just be common sense, ladies. Like, if you're dating a guy and then he starts talking about sex, just know that y'all are not going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. Just know that. Like, that's pretty obvious, you know. So he starts talking about porn, and I'm like, oh my God, whatever. He says that he went to a porn convention. So then we start talking. He says he has a sex slave. Like, so yeah, he says he has a sex slave. So I'm like, sex slave? Like, what are you talking about? So literally, he basically was saying how he's a dominant and she's subservient. And I kid you not, guys, he did not look like the type. He really didn't. So this was freaking me out. And one thing about me that I'm blessed with, the reason why I've only been in 2 serious relationships in my lifetime, is because God always reveals things early. Like, you got some females that's like, they didn't know. Like, for me, I always knew, you know. People be like, oh, men change and this and that. I haven't experienced that. My only experience is sometimes dudes, they come off a certain way, and then when you, after the first couple of conversations, you actually do see true colors, for me. And I feel like for a lot of females too, they just ignore the red flags. But for the most part, these men be telling on themselves. So when he started talking about dominant and subservient, whatever, I told him straight up, I said, listen, what you do outside of me, that's not my business. Just know that I'm not into that, like, straight up. So then we walking, he started saying I'm vanilla, basically saying, like, I guess he's saying I'm corny, whatever. I'm like, I could be corny, whatever. At the end of the day, I'm not into that. Like, I'm not into that. Like, it's just certain things I'm not gonna, like, I've had guys ask me, you know, do I like girls? No, I don't. Like, but you're free to mess with somebody. I remember my ex, he didn't like the way I gave him oral. I said, and I didn't like giving him oral because I wasn't really into him like that. Like, I'm not a colorist, but I'm not really into dark skinned guys. And then on top of that, it wasn't even his complexion. It's just the fact of he wasn't circumcised. So you're not circumcised, you having all these different smells, and you want me to give you oral? Like, it don't go that way. No. So yeah, so I told the guy, I was like, you know, what you do outside of me, we're not a couple, we just met, I can't help that, whatever. So boom. And I end up smacking him because I felt like the way he was talking was degrading to black women, because he told me how he had a white girlfriend and she was from Scotland. That was the girlfriend. And then he had another girlfriend that was African and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, so you didn't take them to porn conventions? You didn't. He said one of them he did, but he didn't introduce them to that lifestyle. He didn't call them sex slave. He said ex-girlfriend. So then with this girl, he was like, oh, she a black girl from Brooklyn. I don't know if he said that because I'm a black girl from Brooklyn, but my whole thing is like, it's almost as if you have a stigma against black girls or something. Because why is the black girl from Brooklyn, why is she your subservient? Why is she your sex slave? Like, you know, it was weird. So I try to ignore that because I felt like, you know what, I had a good time with him. I know in my mind I already had a notion, I'm not taking this guy serious, whatever, he's just for now, right? So right after that, he's like, oh, I'm going to Egypt. I didn't take the time off, I'm going to Egypt. So he sent me pictures. I'm like, oh, okay, I like this dude because he's cultured, he's traveled. You know, I mentioned Broadway and stuff to him. He's like, yeah, he likes that. He likes music. Everything I like, he's into, guys. He was perfect. He was perfect. Like, he really was, aside from that crazy shit. So, you know, and so the second meetup, well, even before that, I was messaging, like, he would message me every morning, and then it turned to me messaging him. But again, I'm not thinking anything of it. We just met, whatever. So I'm like, well, can we see each other when you come back from Egypt? He's like, sure, Red flag number 2, I was the one that was kind of put, like, even though he said we was gonna do the second date, I was the one that was like pushing it. And ladies, you should never have to say anything about a second date. Like, he should be the one to say, you know? So that's the vibes I was getting. Like, is he really feeling me? Like, is this girl that he's talking about that he just have sex with, is this really his girlfriend? Like, I had so many thoughts go running through my head. Again, I was just ignoring the red flags. So I was like, okay, when you come back from Egypt, first of all, I wanted to hang out with him before he left for Egypt, and that didn't happen. So then when he came back from Egypt, I was like, okay, when are we hanging out? Like, I was like pushing it. So we finally made a date, and he said, I have to work from home, but you can come over and we can hang out afterwards. I should have never did that because he obviously had plans, right? So, and I wasn't trying to do it that soon, but it happened. It was the best time of my life with a man. It really was. Like, I've had great sex, but this was like top notch, right? So yeah, the only thing is he would stink a little bit. Like, it was crazy because he was home all day. So I was like, why do he stink? Like, why do he stink and he been home all day? Like, I was coming from work, you know, and I still wasn't stink. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just smelled like he ain't showered for a day or two. It just was like, ugh, like, he smelled really bad, but I ignored it or whatever. And he was very hospitable to me. Like, he made a drink after. We actually went out on a date after, perfect gentleman. And so we're talking, and I'll never forget the day I'm catching the train. It's like he was trying to get rid of me. And I was like, you trying to get rid of me? And he's like, no, the train is right here. I said, but I could walk to the L train. Remember our first date, we walked to the L train. So why are you walking me to the 6? Now I have to transfer. He's like, oh, well, the train station right here. So I said, but why can't we walk to the L? He was like begging me to take that 6 train. I'm like, you trying to get rid of me. Like, it's so obvious you trying to get rid of me. He's like, don't worry. I'll see you again. And when he said that, I just knew within myself that was the last time I was going to see him. Like, I just had that feeling. And sure enough, like, right after that, he wasn't picking up. I thought something happened. Like, I thought something was really going, like, something happened. And I had my cousin message him. And I'm like, is he respond? I said, niggas is dumb, right? So I was like, she was like, what do you want me to say? I said, don't say anything, just say hey. And if he says, who is this? Then I know he's alive and well and just ignoring me. So she had messaged him and she was like, no, Crystal, he's not responding. He's not saying anything. I said, okay. So finally I was like, what's going on? I start getting emotional in my text. He's like, no, I'm just feeling overwhelmed with everything and this, that, and the third and blah, 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 blah. I kid you not, less than 5 days later, he goes, yeah, I'm not really in the dating mood right now. I'm not trying to date right now. And this, that, and the third, blah, 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 blah. I said, so he's like, I'm cutting everybody off. I said, what you mean everybody? And then I was like, in the message, I was like, do you get tested? Like, because he was like, at some point, he got offended and was like, oh, I have several women. I said, you nasty. Why do you need several women in a week? It should be 1 or 2 women, not several women. Like, you're 36 years old. You should be more calm now with, what I'm saying? I'm not saying you should be celibate as a man, but why you need so many women in a week? Like, it's just, I'm like, I felt disgusted at that point because I'm like, do you get tested? Like, you're nasty. Like, you have sex with that many people in a week. Like, what? And I was like, I figured you was messing with other people because you was saying how you was busy with work. And I'm like, nobody's that busy unless if they're a lawyer or a doctor. Like, you're a software engineer. So yes, I know it's probably demanding, but when he said busy, I just knew it wasn't work. Like, you're not a doctor or a lawyer. And even a guy who I knew was a doctor in his residency, he made time for me. So the hell. And then he finally came clean. Like, busy don't mean work. Busy mean I was with other women. And I said, okay, yeah, I kind of figured that. Whatever, we just met. So who am I to tell you to cut all your hoes off? Like, I'm a woman. I'm not talking to anybody. That's just me. Like, I'm not going to be talking to multiple dudes at a time. I've never, been that way. Like, for me, even in my younger days, like, I'll talk to a guy in March and I'll be done with him and just talk to somebody brand new in April. But I've never been on some, I'ma mess with this one on Tuesday and then mess with them again Thursday, and then it's a brand new nigga Friday, and then mess with that nigga Saturday. Like, no, I've never been that way. I've never needed to be that way. And he admitted that he was saying, this is the part that I have to tell y'all. So in the messages, he was like, I was like, so what about that girl? Like, I was curious. I said, what about that girl you said is your sex slave? You getting rid of her too? Why are you getting rid of all of us? What's so great about her? He's like, oh, it's a commitment. I said, oh, so that is your girlfriend. He's like, no, it's not like that. She's my subservient. I'm too dominant for you. He's like, trust me, if we continue to deal with each other, You're gonna need therapy. I'm toxic. He was saying this about himself now. I'm toxic. I'm like, what? Like, wow, okay. So and I felt so played because I'm like, this nigga dead ass hit it and quit it. I'm 34 years old and I've never gone through anything like that. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, usually a nigga would keep hitting me up and I would tell him, like, hey, I'm not interested, X, Y, and Z. But to go out on a date, to go to this nigga house, and then we do our do, and then weeks after you talking about something, you overwhelmed and you gotta cut me off. Like, cut the bullshit. Like, and I just never thought that I would go through something like that in my 30s. So I tell you all ladies this: if you with somebody and you love them and y'all have y'all problems, now I'm going into my ex. Now grab your water, grab your tea, grab your wine for that one. But I wanted to say, the dating pool out here, ladies, is ghetto. It is ghetto out here. It really is. It's like, you are going to meet all type of strange niggas. Like, I think I told y'all I met a guy off Facebook 2 years ago, and he was a CEO. He went to church. He actually invited me to his church. Went to his church. We went out. We never did anything. We didn't have sex. We didn't kiss. We didn't do anything. It didn't get that far because of the way he was talking to me. I didn't appreciate that. And he went to jail for child porn. I can't make this up. Like, he went to jail. How did I find out? It wasn't from Google. It was his book. Like, he had the audacity to write it in his book, and he didn't even feel no way about it. And when you Google him, all his accolades and his credentials pop up. Like, yes, he is a former lawyer. He has a Harvard law degree. He used to be a professor at BMCC. The students have nothing but good things to say about him, saying that he was an awesome professor. Like, when we went to the Harvard alumni spot, if you're a former student or a graduate or whatever, you have to, is a number that they give you. And so he gave them that number. And I was impressed. I'm like, oh, okay. I get used to this, you know. But I just couldn't get with him because he was judgmental. That was the first sign that I saw. And not towards me necessarily. No, yeah, he was towards me because I failed the class, but towards others too. Yeah, so he was a professor at BMCC. And BMCC is a community college in New York City. It's right next to the World Trade Center, Chambers Street. And it's a pretty decent school. Like, you know, a lot of people go there to get their associates and then they move on to like Hunter or any 4-year school in CUNY. And, you know, when you look him up, the students have nothing but good things to say about him and all of that. And he was the valedictorian of his class. He went to Monroe. Was it Monroe? No, Morehouse. He went to Morehouse College. That's an all black. It's a HBCU for men. He's valedictorian of his class. Went to Harvard Law School. Like, the brother got it going on, hands down. But he got so many demons. And then when you read his book, it's like, that's like really sad to go through that. And then after that experience, you know, reading his book, and I was like, I don't want to be with somebody that is short-tempered and has that type of past. It's certain things I could forgive, like if you sold drugs or something like that. But molestation, rape, child porn, like, I have a child. Even though he's growing up, he about to be 15. At the time, this was 2 years ago, he was 13. So what the fuck I look like dating somebody who went to jail for child porn? Like, no. Like, no. Get somebody else to do it. So, what I went through with my ex, you know, I deserve to leave and get out. But ladies, if you have a man and y'all get along. That's number one. That he respects you. Y'all get along. He don't lie to you. And overall, he's a good nigga. And you like him. Now, if you don't like him, that's gonna be an issue because y'all are gonna clash. Like in this, when you don't like a nigga, if you're not attracted to him, it's gonna show in the relationship. You're gonna start resenting him. He's gonna start resenting you. So I would recommend like to get out of that too, because you don't want to be resenting him. But for those of y'all who have decent men, and when I say decent, he working, he pay bills, he help you with the kids, he's a decent nigga, he don't lie to you, he's faithful, hold on to him. Hold on to him. I'm single because I haven't found that type of nigga. Like, I could truly say, now some people might say, oh, you 34, you don't have nobody, maybe it's you, maybe it is me. But I could truly say that there's not one guy in my life, there's not one guy, whether it be a guy friend who's married or anything of that nature, where I feel like I missed out because there's something about their character that was no good. And so they might be somebody else's husband, but I know that they were no good for me. You know, the selfishness, they don't clean. It's always a good reason why I don't want to be dealing with the dude, you know. But yeah, so that was the guy that I met in the club on Labor Day weekend. He was basically a 50 Shades of Grey. And it was just so funny because I'm like, yo, I could never get a break. I could never get a break. I feel like every time I meet somebody, it's always some stuff. Like, it's always something. Like, it can never just be, oh, they a decent guy and I can go on with my life. Like, no, it's always some extra stuff. It can never be just, oh, you know, it's always something. It's always something. And I'm still optimistic because I'm still young, I'm still beautiful, I'm educated. I know I have a lot to offer. But it's like I'm 34. I was going to go to church today because I was like, when I was at Easter, Hezekiah, it was some fine men up in there. But, you know, I can't get with the waking up in the morning on a weekend. That's my biggest pet peeve. Like, why is it I don't go to church more often? Yeah, the waking up in the morning on a weekend, it's just it's not my thing. It's not, you know. So, but especially with chores that I have to do, and just like yesterday I cooked, I washed dishes more than once, you know. I was gonna do my laundry today, but I can do it next week. It's like I always have something to do. It's not just go to work. No, it's so much more. And then when my son was little, forget it, because I had to take him out to keep him entertained. And I remember when I had to do his laundry. I remember I had to do my laundry and my son's laundry. I had to do all the cooking because he was little. I had to do everything. So imagine having to do everything, and Sundays I sleep late. And Sundays and now my son does help me. He does the dishes sometimes. He had made some food the other day. It was good. He made it twice. So yeah. But yeah, into the story time. Story time. So I might do like a few different parts because it's a lot. It was 3 years of stuff. So I don't know if I'm gonna tell the whole story because it's a lot. And I wasn't going to tell it because I know that he watches this channel, but I don't know if he still watches it. I'm not going to say his name just in case if he is watching. I'll be respectful for that because most people, I'll say their name. Like the guy that I met in the club Labor Day weekend, I didn't say his name. I said I'm gonna be nice. But for my ex, we're gonna call him OG because he was an old man and I did not know he was old until a year in. So we met December 2018. You might as well say 19 because it was days before the new year. This was like, it had to be like after my son's birthday. My son's birthday is the 28th, and he was gone for the week with his father's family. And so my old coworker, I used to work at World Trade Center. She is Trinidadian, and one of her closest friends at the job is also Trinidadian. So they will always have like events and gatherings and stuff like that. And this particular person's house, I never felt comfortable in his house, and I didn't know why until later, till much later. I'm gonna tell y'all, get into that too. So she's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna call him SpongeBob. SpongeBob is having a gathering or whatever, and I'm bored at this point. My son is in Jersey, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come, you know, whatever, I'm gonna come through. I come through, and it was like one ugly guy. His name was Snooky or something like that. He had bad teeth, and I know he was unemployed without him even saying he was unemployed. He was like, where you from? I said, well, I live in Brownsville. He's like, oh, I hang out in Brownsville. I said, there's nothing in Brownsville but projects. What you mean you hang out in Brownsville? Like, what? I don't even hang out in Brownsville. Like, I be in the house or I go out, but you'll never see me hanging out in Brownsville. Like, there's nothing over here but projects, I'm telling you, in Brookdale Hospital. Like, literally. And the houses that's over here is ghetto. They not even real houses. I don't know why they look like that, but whatever. It's nothing over here. So anybody who say they hang out in Brownsville, you already know that they a gangbanger or a drug dealer. And you broke, because the drug dealers over here, they broke. You could just look at them and tell. But so he's like, oh, I hang out in Brownsville. I said, well, I don't. So that's a dub. Then the other guy that was there, he said he had a girlfriend. And then there's another guy that was there. My friend was talking to him, so I just assumed, okay, that's just a nigga she's dealing with, whatever. But he was cute. And the only other guy left was OG, which was the brother of SpongeBob. So basically, he looked older, but not as old as that I found out him to be. Because he looked like he was about 45. So I'm like, okay. But I already had it in my head, because right before that, I went through a situation with a guy. We met Mother's Day weekend 2018, and he was a GYN in residency. So he was like just starting out. And he said he was 45, but he looked much older. And so I had it in my mindset that any other older guy that's trying to get with me, I'm going to ask them for their ID. Why I didn't ask OG for his ID, I guess it was just in the moment and I wasn't thinking. And then he was saying it in front of SpongeBob, his brother. So I'm like, I'm not thinking he lying about his age. He said he was 48, 45, whatever. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit older than, at the time I was 29. So that is a lot of years, but I'm not thinking he's older than that, because this man don't have no gray hair. He didn't have anything. He was bald. So I'm like, okay, whatever, cool. We hit it off and we started dating, and there was little things, little red flags that I caught on to. And I think after like the 4th month, I just had it in my head that I wasn't going to take him serious. So the first red flag was, I wanted to go to Barclays, and everybody in New York City, if you live in the 5 boroughs, you know that in Brooklyn, Barclays, every year for Valentine's Day weekend, they have, yes, so my battery is actually dying from my laptop. I don't understand why I need my laptop to have my Shein light, but whatever. So that's what I had. I was like, I knew it was something that I needed to get. I need to get a camera because I told y'all I need my new camera. The next video that I have is gonna be next year, because I keep saying this is the last video, this is the last. I just love doing videos. But anyway, yes, so where was I? I was at the very beginning. So yeah, we hit it off. Oh yeah, so anybody who lives in New York City in Barclays, Valentine's Day weekend every year, they do the Valentine's Day concert. They have different artists that come and perform. So he's telling me, oh, we can't go because he said how his children's mother's gonna be there. I said, OG, you know that Barclays is very big, right? Now, he hadn't been to the Barclays yet, so he didn't really know. I said, it's a very, very, very big arena. Like, it's huge. There's no way that you could bump into someone. Your chances of bumping into someone is slim to none. That's how big it is. If you do bump into them, it's because you wanted to, or you screamed. Like, in 2019, that summer, we had bumped into my friend from high school, and I saw her from a distance. Like, I saw her she was like 6 rows down from me. But we wouldn't have bumped into each other if I didn't call out to her, right? It's a very big place. So when he said that, he was like, oh, my daughter and her mother are gonna be there. I said, what that got to do with me? So strike one, flag number one, my feelings didn't matter. So ladies, anytime you are in a scenario where he's like, oh, whatever, that's a red flag that he got baggage and you don't need that in your life. Seriously. So that was my cue. I should have been done with him after that, because I had a feeling that something was wrong. Because my whole thing is this: what's wrong with us being together? And he never could answer me. I said, if you're done with this woman, right, you've moved on with your life, you now live with your brother SpongeBob, right, what is wrong with us going to Barclays? Like, I wasn't comprehending. He was like, oh, well, da-da-da-da. I said, well, all you have to do is ask your daughter where they sitting and just make sure you're not in the vicinity. And if they do see us, I didn't understand what the problem was, because you're not with her anymore. So what if you with somebody else for the Valentine's? You know, I just wasn't putting 2 and 2 together. He was just telling me, oh, she's crazy. And I believed him, because with my son's father, we were never together, and he's crazy. He's not crazy now, because I put my foot down and I was telling him that. I said, with a person like that, and the way he was talking about, I said, you have to put your foot down. You can't just let her run your life. That's a person, that's what you call, not really a narcissist, but a person that's a bully, and they pushing you to do things you don't want to do. You have to put your foot down to say X, Y, and Z. So that's what I didn't appreciate about that. I was like, okay, whatever. Oh, and then before that, weeks after we met, his God got repossessed. So that was another red flag, because it's like he didn't know how to manage money. So another red flag, he never spoke about his kid's mom. And the reason why I say that's a red flag is because if a man was with a woman for a number of years, he should talk about her, you know, positive or negative. And I wouldn't have minded, because that's normal. That's somebody you lived with and was with for years. Yeah, right? He never spoke about her unless if I said something. But the woman that he did talk about, he claimed was never his girlfriend. It was a girl before me. And he claimed she was so much of a hoe, but he gave her an allowance. He gave her grocery money. He gave her gifts. Like, he treated her like a princess. Like, she got princess treatment. They went to Vegas on his birthday, and he paid for everything. When we went on trips, we went half and half. He never paid. The only time he paid for everything was when we first started dating in the month of April. we went to the Poconos and he paid for everything or whatever. But other than that, it was always 50-50 with me and him. Always. So it was just funny how, you know, and his brother used to say, oh, you know, he's generous. I'm like, not to me. Not I. So then I find out of his real age. I didn't find out until his brother. Now, this is Labor Day weekend 2019. Labor Day weekend 2019. So I'm at his brother's house. He's still living with his brother at this time. And so he left to go wherever he went. And I'm stuck with SpongeBob. And, you know, we're talking. And he has a friend over. He starts talking about family stuff and whatever. And then he says that the family is into voodoo. He says that he's into voodoo. And I'm like, what? No. Like, it was crazy because I knew SpongeBob from 2016. Because that's when I worked at. We all, like I said previously, me, him, and my old coworker, we all worked together at World Trade Center, and me and her used to party all the time, and he would have parties too. And every time I went to his house, I just felt weird. Like, he, you know how you get like this weird sensation. Yes. So yeah, his brother was like, oh, the stepdad that raised them gave him these powers and all this stuff. And it was just, I wish I would have recorded the experience, because it literally was something out of this world. It's something that I cannot make up. And what I just kept saying is, my God is stronger than your God. Yeah, so I was telling him, my God is stronger than your God, blah, blah, blah. He was saying how the stepdad that raised him gave him these powers and this, that, and the third, right? It was just such a weird experience. And his friend that was there was like, he noticed something was wrong with him too. He was like, yo, what's good with you? Da, 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 da. Why you wearing shades? And why you just acting weird? So that's when he came clean, like, oh. And then he was telling him, oh, you need to come back home. Meaning, like, recruiting him into sin, recruiting him into whatever he was into. So I was like, my God is stronger than your God, and da da da, like whatever. So when I got home, I kid y'all not, my foot was swollen. Like, I just kept saying Jesus, 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 Jesus. And I knew that was the voodoo. Like, that was him trying to show me his powers or whatever. And a lot of people might feel like, oh, that's crazy, da da da. Like, but my gut literally never lies about someone. Like, even though I was going to his house, like, again, I told y'all, I will only go to his house off the strength of this coworker who, you know, she was a party goer and she was cool with him. Like, she knew him before she knew me. And so I was just going off the strength of her or whatever. But I never felt comfortable. And plus, there was men there that was always trying to dance up on me, and I just wasn't feeling the vibe. But his house, like, I could go to somebody's house and I could feel the vibrations. That's just how I've always been. So if I could be around someone and I just don't like them. It's just something about their aura that's off. Now, some people are, I have a more recent coworker that I had a mean crush on him, and he got stuff going on that I didn't see it at first. It wasn't until he told me. Like, the scary thing about him is, if he would have never told me, I would have never known. So sometimes my my discernment don't be on point, I guess, because, you know, we're all human. Or him, it was like he was so good looking, I just kind of didn't see the signs. Like, there were signs, because he would like talk about people and stuff like that, But I didn't really see that, like, you know, what really was going on with him. And like I said, if he didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known, type stuff. So, but back to SpongeBob. So SpongeBob, you know, he does voodoo. He said he did voodoo. And I told OG, I said, you know, I don't feel comfortable. And I knew there was, and I told him straight up, I said something about your brother that I knew was off. And then he's like, oh, he gay. I said, him being gay is not the issue. Okay. One of my dearest friends is gay. She's married to a woman. Like, she's gay for real. Like, she's married to a woman, you know. Yeah, they live in a house. They have a house together. They raising kids together. Like, she's gay for real. Him, he's on the DL. He's not in no relationship with no man. He recruiting people that have families. Those are the people he mess with. So he's basically, to me, like a demon in the hood. Trying to recruit motherfuckers. You know, so yeah, it was crazy. So that's when he told me, even though all of this was going on, that's when he revealed to me that my ex was older, much older than what he said. And I was very disappointed. I was very disgusted, because I'm like, how can someone, understandable things happen, but with him, I was not his first young girl. And I wanted to talk to my young girls. If you are 40 and under, you have to understand, with these men that are older and they want to date you, they're not trying to date you because they like you. It's a demon. It's literally a fetish that they have. And the demon, in his case, his stepfather used to mess with teenage girls. His mom was 19 and his stepdad was in his 30s when they got together. His brother that's gay, he messes with younger dudes that's in their 20s, early 20s. And his other brother that's a cop messes with teenage girls. So obviously this is a demon that's in the family. And I wanted to address it. I wanted to talk about it. Hopefully somebody hear this and they could get help from this. You have to be careful who you date and sleep with. And if you don't have the Holy Ghost, that demon could come on to you. It's so many women out here that are not just broken, but they have demons in them